Part 7 of building a simple relational database and including a couple of SQL statements. Key points to review. This database contains 3 tables, an actor and a film, and a linking table, actor film, that uses the foreign keys in actor film to define and preserve and implement, that uses the foreign keys in actor film to implement the many-to-many relationship required between actor and film. The actor table has some test data in it, and the actor film table links the actor and the film via their primary keys. For this part, I'm going to show how to insert data into the tables using some Python code. First of all, I will create some Python that will enter the data just as if I typed it directly into the tables using DB Browser. The problem with taking that approach is there's nothing to stop me entering the same actor or films many times. In the second part, where the Python is more complicated, the code will read the tables before entering the data, and the objective is to try and avoid entering the same actor or films many times. Or at least tell me that the actor or film is already in the database, and do I really want to add them again? A limitation on this approach is how close a match to existing records will I be able to detect. To insert data into an SQL database, most of the Python code will actually be copied from working SQL select, but using an SQL insert instead. And in the approach I'm going to take, most of the work is done by the Python code, represented by p:, and the stages are: create a connection to the database, define a cursor, ask the user for the data to be entered, build the SQL insert, and then execute the SQL insert, which will actually cause the SQL to be executed on the database. And then in Python, commit the change, and at the end, close the database. Part 2, we're going to read the tables before entering the data in order to try and avoid entering the same actor or film many times. There's a disclaimer to the code that I'm going to show you. There may well be, and probably are, better ways to code this, or better tools, or better languages to achieve all of this. But the point is, this is a demonstration to access and update a relational database. Show that SQL can't do it alone. The SQL needs to be embedded within a program or application written in your favorite language. Python, Java, C++, JavaScript. And what if the code needs to run on a server? And shouldn't I use a better database management system than SQLite, such as MySQL, or SQL Server, or MongoDB, or any one of the myriad other databases available out there? What about error handling and scalability? And I'm going to ignore all of that and just show that to run SQL in a program needs a bit of setup. In this example, I'm going to open a database connection, create a cursor, and then prompt for the actor to add to the database. All of that is the same as the example in part 1. What's new is I'll try and find a simple match on the actor name by using the first 3 characters of the actor we're trying to add to the database. I'll then allow the user to abort adding the new actor or continuing with adding the actor's details. I'll then collect the remaining actor data and execute the SQL insert. Then commit the change and close the database. So, again, most of the work is done in the Python application. Only the execution of the SQL is performed by the Python and acts on the SQL database. So this is a demonstration of the small program I've written that will query the existing database to find if an actor I wish to add to the database is already there, and then whether I wish to continue to add a new actor's details. So the prompt that the user will get when running the program is, please type in the actor's name. I will search for a match on the first 3 characters. If you do not wish to add an actor, just press enter with no characters. So I'm going to add an actor with the name of Isaac Peterson. Okay. And there are no matches on that. So please enter if you want to add an actor to the database. Press any other key and enter if you do not wish to store the actor's name. So I'll press enter and it will say give the nationality of the actor and press enter. So I'll say that Isaac is Hungarian and type in the date of birth. So Isaac was born 1956, November the 23rd. And Isaac is now in the database. If I run the program again, so I'm going to add a new actor, Isaac Herald. And it's found that there is an existing actor with the name of Isaac Peterson. Okay, press enter if you want to add the actor to the database. So Isaac Herald is a different actor, so I'll hit enter. Type in the nationality, so Isaac Herald is Australian. And he was born in 1989 in the month of April and on the 12th. And that's it. If I ran the program again, there isn't a sophisticated error checking. Rerun the program again and try and add Isaac Herald. And it tells me that Isaac Herald is already in the database, but I decide to persist. Okay, please enter if you want to add actor to the database. Type in the nationality. So this Isaac is Swedish and was born in 2003, January the 2nd. In this case, you get a database error because the actor name, when I defined the database, said that the actor name must be unique. So to handle that, I'd have to have some way of handling within my language and trapping that error, saying that I couldn't add that particular actor because their name wasn't unique. So this piece of Python code, all it does is try to find matches in the database by performing a select and then inserting the data if I, as the user, decide I want to continue inserting that particular actor into the database. And the rest of the video will show you the code that I've written that does that, to show you the split between the Python functionality and the SQL code you need to set up access to the database and then perform the insert into the database. So the application that just ran had these as the major components. First of all, I created a connection to the SQLite 3 film database. I then used that connection to define a cursor. I then prompted the user of the application to input an actor's name. I then built a search for that actor's name, but the first 3 characters in the SQL database. And if that search name was blank, and if the search name was not blank, then I build an SQL command, the select name from actor, where the name is like question mark, then executed the SQL by taking my select statement and appending the name I'm trying to search for and ensuring I put the search inside square brackets because the second parameter must be a list or a tuple. After having executed the SQL select, I then have to get the data back into the Python program. And I do that by running the fetch all method against the cursor on the database. And the output from that fetch all method is put into the rows identifier or variable. And how do I process the data that's now available to Python within the rows? I run the Python for loop because that data is actually contained within a list, which is like an array. And this ability to iterate in Python using a for loop, I feel is probably worth the effort of learning Python. So the for loop iterates around rows and puts each successive entry in rows into the variable or identifier row. And row is a row from the database where the first column is the actor name. Where the first column is the actor name. So that has an index of 0. Now I check whether the user wants to add that actor to the database. I have identified all existing actors in the database whose first 3 characters match the first 3 characters of the actor I'm thinking of adding. If I decide to add that actor because I believe it to be a new actor, I'll build an SQL command, which is an insert. I'm going to insert it into the actor table and enter the name, the nationality, and date of birth. And for now, the values are just 3 question marks. And that SQL command has to be held within 3 double quotes. Then I prompt the user to type in the nationality of the actor and the date of birth of the actor. Finally, I execute the SQL command, the insert, and follow it with the second parameter, which is the 3 input values that are going to replace the question marks: actor name, temp nation, and temp date of birth. Remembering to put the second parameter on the execute statement into square brackets. I then run the execute of that SQL command and the values that are going to be used with it. After that execute has completed, I'll commit the changes to the database, and I commit them to the connection, not the cursor.